Peter Jason Quill, aka Star-Lord. Shortly after his mother's death in 1988, he is kidnapped and raised by a group of space pirates known as the Ravengers. The film opens on Peter stealing an orb, which takes place 26 years after his abduction. Peter is a goofy and charismatic smuggler who is a bit of a jerk at times and doesn't have any trouble with the ladies. Remind you of anyone? Yondu. Yondu is the leader of the Ravengers, a group of ruthless space thieves and smugglers. Yondu raised Peter after abducting him, bringing him into the life of space crime. Yondu carries a special arrow on his hip that he can control by simply whistling, working as a very effective and deadly weapon. After hearing that Peter stole the orb in the opening of the movie, Yondu places a bounty on Peter's head in order to steal the orb for himself. Nova Prime Irani Rael. Nova Prime is the leader of the Nova Corps, the central good guy government seen in the film. The Nova Corps' home planet is Xandar, which is also the same planet where Peter intends to sell the orb that he stole. The Nova Corps is at war with the Kree, which is led by the fanatic Ronan the Accuser. Ronan is the main antagonist of the film and is a member of the Kree race. Ronan is a fanatic who defied the treaty between the Kree and the Nova Empire and is hellbent on destroying the planet Xandar. Ronan wants the orb so he can trade it to Thanos in order to receive Thanos' aid in the destruction of Xandar. Ronan's primary weapon is a large hammer, and he also has his own ship known as the Dark Aster and a sizable fleet along with it. Nebula. Nebula is the adopted daughter of Thanos and the adoptive sister of Gamora. She is a cyborg, incapable of repairing herself, and is loyal to Ronan. Gamora. Gamora is the adopted daughter of Thanos and the adoptive sister of Nebula. At the beginning of the film, she is sent by Thanos to aid Ronan, and is tasked with stealing the orb. Gamora decides to betray both her father and Ronan, and plans on stealing the orb for herself, to sell to a buyer for an obscene amount of money. Gamora is a skilled and deadly warrior, though Peter does try frequently to flirt with her. Rocket Raccoon and Groot. Rocket Raccoon is the result of illegal genetic experimentation, resulting in Rocket being a very intelligent and skilled fighter, and is also capable of designing complex weapons and technology. Groot is a tree-like creature who is only capable of saying,
I'm Groot. I'm Groot. I am Groot!
Together, Rocket and Groot work as bounty hunters and try to catch Peter for the reward that Yondu put on his head. Drax the Destroyer. Drax is an incredibly powerful and strong fighter, but he is completely literal and has no understanding of euphemisms, social cues, or satire. Drax's entire family was killed by Ronan and vows to get revenge. And now on to the story. After stealing the orb, Peter lands on the planet Xandar in order to sell the orb to his black market dealer. Shortly after arriving, Peter is intercepted by Gamora, who wants to steal the orb for herself. Peter and Gamora break into a fight when Groot and Rocket identify Peter and notice that he has a bounty on his head. Groot and Rocket jump into the fight in order to capture Peter themselves. After causing a considerable amount of damage, all four of them are arrested and sent to the Klin, a high-security outer space prison. When they arrive at the Klin, Gamora explains to the group that she was going to sell the orb for a massive amount of money. After a bit of arguing, Peter convinces the team to work together to break out of the prison and split the earnings from selling the orb. While in prison, they meet Drax, whose entire family was killed by Ronan and wants revenge. Drax teams up with the main group in hopes that he will have the opportunity to kill Ronan. The team devises an elaborate plan involving disabling the gravity of the prison and successfully escapes. Afterwards, they travel to meet Gamora's buyer on a massive floating head known as Nowhere. Nowhere is a seedy mining community with virtually no laws. Peter and Gamora meet up with the Collector there, who reveals to them the true purpose of the orb.
Oh, my new friends.
Before creation itself, there were 6 singularities. Then the universe exploded into existence, and the remnants of these systems were forged into concentrated ingots. Infinity Stone.
The Infinity Stone contains a massive amount of energy and can only be wielded by beings of superior power. However, one of the slaves tries to take the stone in defiance of him and explodes on contact. After realizing the stone's importance, Gamora and Peter decide to take the stone to the Nova Corps so it could be kept out of the hands of dangerous individuals such as Ronan. But while Peter and Gamora were dealing with the stone and the Collector, Drax made contact with Ronan in a foolish attempt to kill him. Ronan arrives on Nowhere with his entire fleet, and at the same time, Yondu has tracked down Peter's location, and a huge fight breaks out between all 3 sides. After a lot of shooting, flying, and chasing, eventually the team is defeated, and they lose the stone to Ronan. Gamora and Peter are left stranded floating in outer space, with only seconds to live. In a moment of desperation, Peter reaches out to Yondu, who ends up saving them from the cold and oxygenless space. Aboard the Dark Aster, Ronan, who has now realized what the orb actually contained, decides to take the Infinity Stone for himself and places it into his hammer. Thanos is furious at Ronan's betrayal, but Ronan vows that he will destroy the planet Xandar, and afterwards he will go kill Thanos. We now go back to Yondu's ship, where shortly after recovering from the oxygenless space, Peter and Gamora are interrogated by Yondu. After some threatening and fighting, Peter convinces Yondu and the Ravengers to team up with the Guardians in order to get the stone back from Ronan. The deal is Yondu and his men will help the Guardians, so long as Yondu gets the Infinity Stone when the battle is over. Peter contacts the Nova Corps on Xandar to alert them of Ronan's attack, and also to let them know that the Ravengers will be helping protect the planet. Ronan's ship arrives at the planet Xandar, along with a massive fleet of Kree fighter ships. While the Ravengers and the Nova Corps fight the fleet from the outside, Peter, Drax, Groot, and Gamora punch a hole in the Dark Aster and enter in on foot. Rocket, on the other hand, remains on the outside of the Dark Aster in order to help fight from his ship. The Guardians fight their way through the inside, defeating Nebula and Ronan's soldiers. Eventually, the Guardians reach Ronan, but Ronan, coupled with the power of the Infinity Stone, clearly has the upper hand. It seems as though all hope is lost for the Guardians. However, while monologuing about his superior power, Rocket crashes his ship through a window, hitting Ronan and causing the Dark Aster to fall out of the sky. As the Dark Aster is plummeting to Earth, Groot creates a protective wood ball around the group, which will kill him, but protect the others. After the ship crashes, a huge wave of destruction occurs, crushing buildings and a good portion of the city. The group has survived, except for Groot, but unfortunately, so did Ronan. Once again, Ronan, being the high and mighty fanatic, starts monologuing about how he will destroy Xandar. Peter sees this as a great opportunity to create a distraction.
Things are gonna get easier. Ooh, child, things will get brighter. Listen to these words. Ooh, child, things are gonna get easier. Ooh, child, things will get brighter. Then bring it down hard. Someday, put it together.
What are you doing?
Dance off, bro. Me and you. Come on. Subtle. Take it back.
What are you doing?
I'm distracting you, you big turd blossom.
Peter grabs the stone, and the Guardians all work together to utilize the power of the Infinity Stone, and finally defeat Ronan.
How?
You said it yourself, bitch. We're the Guardians of the Galaxy.
After Ronan is destroyed, the Guardians trap the stone in a container, only to be immediately surrounded by Yondu and the Ravengers. Yondu takes the container and leaves the Guardians. As Yondu is leaving, he mentions to one of his crew how the Ravengers were originally hired to pick up Peter and bring Peter to his dad. This possibly could be a plot point for the next movie. Peter reveals, however, that he switched the container on Yondu, giving Yondu a troll doll, while giving the real Infinity Stone to the Nova Corps to be locked away and protected. As a reward for their service, the Nova Corps expunges all of the Guardians' criminal records. Aboard the ship, we see that a small twig from Groot that Rocket had saved actually turned out to still be alive, indicating that we will most likely see Groot again. The Guardians fly off to start on some other new adventure. After the credits, on Nowhere, we see the Collector, still damaged and hurt from earlier, being taunted by Howard the Duck. To my understanding, at this time, there is no plan for an actual Howard the Duck movie. I think it just was a fun and goofy little thing they decided to add in.